As we discussed in the introduction to this series, the question of the existence of God needs to be approached without preconceptions and bias. It is important to have a perspective that is not influenced by human partiality or prejudices. Now that we have the correct perspective of the question of God, we can begin to ask further questions and discuss the topics on the subject as objectively as possible. Why is the question of the existence of God important to ask? The simple answer is that it will have massive consequences on the manner in which both believers and non-believers live their lives. All of humanity is defined by a limited number of years on Earth. It is within this brief window of time that we all strive to live our best lives and find meaning in our own ways. Therefore, the reason we must ask the why is it important to find our truth about God question is because it touches the two items that make us human. One is time. The other is life's fulfillment. So, the first reason we ask the why about God is time. Time is the most valuable of human resources. What does it benefit you if you've won $1 billion in the lottery, became famous, or just met your soulmate if your life was to end the next day? It is time that would allow you to enjoy your winnings, your fame, or a life-fulfilling relationship. For believers, their time is not limited to this life. However, the existence of God does not make their mortal life less important. Whether this life is a training ground for heaven or just the first in a string of levels of consciousness, the result is the same. It is important to make the most of the handful of decades they have here so that they may be able to experience heaven or its equivalent for billions of years to come. In essence, an investment in living a good life here allows them to make this a good life, but also opens the door for them to have the best of lives for eternity. Believing for them, in essence, extends their time beyond their mortal existence. You may think that time would have little effect upon non-believers, but this could not be farther from the truth. If the core principle of atheists is that there is no God or gods, then it stands to follow that there would be no afterlife. The average human lifespan is 73.4 years, and of course there may be a car accident or slip in the tub tomorrow morning that may shorten that time frame dramatically. The point is that life is also precious to a non-believer and made more so by a human's limited lifespan. With the rejection of an eternal destination, one may even say that time in this life may actually be more precious to an atheist as they will have significantly less of it. The second reason we ask the why about God is very closely related to the time aspect, and that is that it directly affects how we perceive and live our lives. Let's call it fulfillment. For a non-believer with a life limited to their earthly body, it is vitally important that not only do they make the most of their life, but that they also come to this realization as soon as possible. The goal is to have as many years of fulfillment as possible, without the consequences of displeasing a higher power. The atheist's only restraint is man's laws. Simply put, an atheist should want to make the most of life, but the last thing they should do is break a law that leads them to be incarcerated and thus waste days, years, or decades behind bars. They do not have any good versus evil restrictions that are faith-based. An atheist does not want to live a wasted life, and realizing a wasted life on one's deathbed is the ultimate loss. So the answer to asking the question of the why about God for an atheist is that it allows them to realize their own truth and choose one of two paths as quickly as possible. The first path is that of the non-believer, and they can move quickly toward maximizing the limited time they have on Earth. The second path is that of continuing self-reflection and gathering information for a potential transitioning toward another truth, that of living their life so as to extend it into eternity. It is important to note that, to the atheist, the ending of life is just that. They do not believe that there are eternal consequences for them. If they are correct, then there is no need for concern, and they can make every effort to do everything they can to find fulfillment in this life. If the atheist is wrong, the repercussions are significant. For believers, many religions speak of negative, eternal consequences for a path not followed, A discussion of this is available but will not be covered in this video as it goes beyond the question of asking the why. The importance for believers is significant as well. They must live within both mankind's and faith-based laws. As a result, they not only must avoid breaking societal laws, but also avoid doing those things that may be legal, but that are not in alignment with their faith. They, like non-believers, strive to live a life of fulfillment as well, but as this life is limited in length compared to eternity, they place more importance on living so as to achieve fulfillment in eternity as well. In other words, they want to be happy here, but it's vital to have ultimate happiness in eternity. They believe doing so also eliminates the potential consequences of what their religion sees as hell. If they are incorrect, they may have given up doing some things that were legal, but not deemed acceptable by their beliefs. If they are correct, they will have bliss for an eternity in heaven. For them, the trade-off is well worth it. This discussion does not address which point of view is correct, but why it is important for everyone to ask the question and to ask it as soon as possible. Why do we need to ask the question about God? Because it has direct implications on what is of most earthly importance, time and life's fulfillment. So the why is important to every person on earth. If you look at a gravestone, there is a name and 2 dates, a birth date and date of death, but there is also a small dash between the dates. That small dash represents everything a person thought, did, learned, and experienced in a whole lifetime. In essence, it is all their time and earthly fulfillment summarized in a small dash. For further and more in-depth discussions on this and related topics, please visit AwareCare Share.